Oh, we got a problem here? We got a problem here? We got a problem, nigga? Oh, what else is this? Run away, nigga.
Can we have one night where there ain't no fight, nobody gets shot?
What? My niggas don't play that. Low key stupid like a nigga getting straight. Yes. My time now go playing with your Rolex, nigga. I'm raw. Just tell them I ain't bad. Not a bad boy. Stack something. Body fucking with the homie Young Gangsta. Ain't nobody fucking with the homie Young. Yeah, who the niggas talking to? Nobody just shit. Yes, yes, get it with my hand. If I got it and you need it for a fee, it's in your hand. Mindset that I have niggas shirts that I have knock off the bank when the Fed shift change. That I tell them who ain't it, better not say me. Or don't speak that blasphemy. The Lord then gave this gas me, so I'm murky beast with a master. Every verse is a masterpiece. Sick of dealing with bitch niggas, kinda co-master. Do it too fast for your homie, just read the line, creep. Doper than the A-ball, the corner pockets where Rob be. Yeah, riding through the city where my niggas don't play that. Low game stupid like a nigga getting straight. That's my time is now. Quit playing with your Rolex, nigga. I'm raw, just tell them I ain't done. Yeah, niggas getting clapped. Basically came from with that. Popping up, I just heard a low for that. Ain't nobody fucking with the homies Young Gang. Ain't nobody fucking with the homies Young. Loud nigga. Carry something up this page with the puppy's stomach. Don't eat wet up, because till it's swollen up and up. Put the pistol to his lips and watch his bitches nuts. Put some grime about it, brush. Cat a corner from the cuts. These niggas trash. Get blood ain't shit, check out the dump. Go too hard, going hard. Work too hard, work too much. Murder mouth, we just keep playing. It ain't on the dome, this perch nuts. Good we rapping, you need a crutch. Back rapping like 60 playing. Game playing, I'm pass happy. Throw gas at him like Drizzy Love. Do it too big for the bigger button. Money on my mind all day. Money on my finger stuck on the trigger clutch. Mindset all day. Riding through the city where my niggas don't play. Low game stupid like a nigga getting straight. Yes. My time is down. Playing with your Rolex. Nigga, I'm drunk. Just tell him I ain't done yet. Nobody fucking with the homie Young Gangsta. Nobody fucking with us. Yeah. Spitting like a locker there. Swallow past. Yeah. Fuck with Mac, you with it. Talking about the hole in it. Or the Rocky Road. Down the hill, snowing it. If he hating on me, then the boulders rolling out. So to show the shit you thought of. Breeze you when you walk. Yeah, he froze. That I'm talking, that I make these cats believers. Give me mics, I got that fever game sharp. Me, Cleveland, think he hot. He's sick of boom. Dress man dropping that nice sauce. Supposed to beat up with a hacksaw. Put metal to your mouth like trap jaw. Thinking that Mac Wacky shall last up. Rooftop of the skills house. Blow game bring them bills out. All about this money, make it so you know we still out. Right through the city where my niggas don't play. Blow games too. Like that. Time and now go playing with your Rolex, nigga. I'm raw. Tell him what?
Good morning, my hatters. Okay, so it's a good Saturday morning. Look, I don't sleep as much as I would like to. Let's get these last minute hiccups out of the way here, because some sick reason I keep getting some issues when it comes to this getting started on Saturday morning. So it always starts off as private. I don't know why that is. Anyways, I still try to get this in so everybody can get started and stuff like that. It's a good Saturday morning. Okay, I didn't turn the background lights on today. Just trying to try to keep it simple for myself today. Besides, we're gonna have a really good discussion today, and I just want to get all these last little hiccups out of the way so that when we get started, we get it going without a hitch. Okay. All right. Still gotta. Hmm. Okay, give me 1 second. See, and I shouldn't have this philosophy of build it while you fly it, honestly, because it is a slow process. It is a slow process, very little progress, and I mean, obviously, I'm not going for perfection, right off the bat, but it's I gotta I gotta move a little bit faster than I wanted to. So I'm gonna. Oh wait, what am I doing? Yeah, I'm gonna try to get all of this done. And hopefully everything goes off smoothly. Okay. And the crazy thing is, so here's a little funny for me. Every time I do this live stream, my mom is here. And that's not saying that's a bad thing. It's just that for some reason I get better results when my mom is here. So like my mom wasn't here yesterday and I didn't have much of an audience, if at all. And yet here I am, Saturday and mom's here. So we're gonna see how that all pans out. Hopefully we have better results than we did yesterday. Speaking of which, I need 1 second, everybody, because I do not have my headphones. And I am feeling just a little overexposed right now. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm back. All right. So I don't even know if anybody can hear me or not, but you know what they say about a grenade going off in the forest, right? Okay, so Hopefully we get some bodies in here. If not, that's cool too. What am I doing? Oh, right. So, what we need to do is get this link to our guest this morning. We're just gonna start without an audience because y'all like to take forever to show up and all that good jazz. So I'm gonna shoot him over this link so we can all get started. We can all start talking and have a good show here. So this guy is pretty much a very well educated man, a very successful man to say the least, and quite frankly, it took me a minute to get a hold of him. So without further ado, I want to introduce everybody to the hood psychologist, Robin Lopez. So let's get a round of applause. Somebody might it doesn't matter. All right. So again, welcome in the hood psychologist or ecologist. Sorry, I keep saying psychologist. I don't know, for some reason it keeps leading with that. Anyway, the hood ecologist, Robin Lopez. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good. How about you? Been a minute.
Like the great E40 said, I'm holding on like a hubcap in the fast lane. Man, it's been too long if you ask me. It's been years. All I do is just keep tabs on some of my more successful colleagues and whatnot. And so for you, it has been a heck of a tale to say the least. I mean, you didn't gone through so many so much schooling, should I say, and then you got a bunch of degrees on your belt, and talk about that for me real quick.
Yeah, so right now I'm finishing up my PhD at UC Berkeley in environmental science, policy, and management. Before that, wrapped up my master's at San Jose State in water resources engineering. Prior to that, my bachelor's degree in civil engineering at San Francisco State. And prior to that, I went junior college route. I was at Contra Costa College. Earned several associate degrees in physics, math, I don't even remember the other ones, engineering. It's one of those things where you end up taking so many fucking classes during the process to try and transfer out. You just end up qualifying for other degrees that you weren't even trying to get. You ended up taking classes that were like, oh, that shit sounds interesting.
Right.
But that also happened because we were ill fucking prepared when we left high school.
We were.
There's no like sense of direction or guidance on like what to do when we're done with high school if we wanted to go to college. So even for that situation for me, it wasn't like I went straight to college and it's a linear path. I tried it for like 2 weeks at SF State, dropped out. A couple years later, went back to community college, and even then was still trying to figure this shit out. And a lot of that, unfortunately, is just the reality. The school district we're in, the environment we're in. There's a handful of teachers that did care, but the reality is the system don't give a fuck about us. They put their eggs all in one basket for a handful of students who they're like, okay, these are the ones that are college material. The other ones, they really didn't care about us. And I know you relate because we were part of that little batch.
Well, we was. And so, you know what? This is something I had never seen. So what was your grades like in high school? Because people who knew me know I was an honor roll student and I was still left to the side and it sucked. So tell me a little something about that.
So my freshman year is I was a straight A student, a 4.0 student. Sophomore year, I think that's when you and I met.
Yep. I was a
Only
grade
had
ahead of you.
only had like one or two letter B letter grades. But after that is like I started realizing, like, started getting hip to the game. They don't give a fuck about us.
Yeah.
They're not investing in dare I say, like, the black and brown students that do show potential. They're not helping us actualize our potential. And so after that, I was like, fuck this. Like, what? And then it trickled into me not really caring about extracurriculars like football. Like, I love football. But then I was like, why do I want to play? It's not going to take me anywhere. These people who are supposed to be guiding me aren't helping me. The coaches can only do so much. And even back then, Coach Pye had his hand tied behind his back.
Yeah.
And bro was outed by
the school.
So
I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, so if they're outing the one person that is willing to invest in all of us, not just student athletes, like Coach Pye was there for students in general, the one person who's willing to invest in all of us and sees potential in folks, then what that say about how we're supposed to feel about ourselves? And so, we internalize that. And so by junior year, my GPA dipped to a 1.7.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, in comes senior year, and the counselor telling me, hey, Robin, you might not graduate. And, so I had to work my ass off. And it wasn't easy, but it was bittersweet. Like, you earn a high school diploma, and like, for a lot of people, I end up realizing it's not a big deal. When I went to college, it's like, oh, yeah, everyone gets a high school diploma. Well, duh, the fuck, I know that. That's how you got into college. You either got your diploma, or you passed your GED. And then, but like, we put ourselves through all those hurdles and hoops to demonstrate and prove that we are actually capable and that we are worthy of investment. And then there's nothing to show for it at the end. Right. It's just kind of like, oh, you walk the stage, get on, get going. But we are going to praise the top 10 students.
Yeah.
Have fun and good luck in your life.
Right. So before we continue, I wanted to say good morning to Monica Brown, Andre Golden, RoGB7, and my moderator, Black Angel TV. Make sure y'all hit that like button because I know y'all come in here and y'all saying all the nice stuff and stuff like that. And I do have an engaging audience, by the way. And like I said, kindness like likes are free. So give me a little something. Okay. So who was one of your favorite teachers when from high school?
One of my favorite, I'd have to say it was definitely the construction teacher, Mr. Milam. We got away with so much.
Oh yeah, that's why he your favorite, because y'all got away with stuff.
Yeah, but definitely him. I did appreciate our Spanish teacher, the teacher that I think you and I had a class with, Miss Ferrer.
Miss Ferrer, oh my God, Miss Ferrer, because I know she was a substitute teacher when I went to Kennedy.
Yeah,
and she was so kind and so patient.
Yeah, she was, because we were badass kids. I don't know if you remember, before she came in as a permanent teacher, this is hella funny for anyone who's listening. Before she came in as a permanent teacher, that school year got started, we went through 3 teachers. I remember.
I think it was more than that.
We had
so many substitutes.
We had hella substitute, but we went through 3 permanent teachers. The first one, I remember the guy, his name was Mr. Mazzini.
Mr. Mazzini, yes, I remember that guy. Hey, you know what?
We kept doing the stink bombs.
I'm gonna tell you something about Mr. Mazzini, right? He destroyed my mental when it came to Spanish, to the Spanish language. When he said this one thing, it was this one thing, and I am so convinced of that for the rest of my life. When he said Spanish was a sexy language, I said, okay, you won. I'm gonna eventually learn this. And the crazy thing is, even though my Spanish isn't as good as I want it to be, I'm still working on actually learning Spanish.
Mhm.
And Mr. Mazzini actually did that to me. He's the reason that I love Spanish so much.
I didn't like that dude because he said we couldn't wear hats in class. So I had no problem participating in facilitation of the stink bombs every day after lunch.
Oh shit.
We damn near never had a class because every time we would launch a stink bomb and then he quit after a week. They brought in someone else. That person quit after 2 days. They brought someone else. And then I remember Miss Roy, the other Spanish teacher, she was talking to me because her and I were cool with each other. And we, after going through all these substitutes, she's like, we're bringing in a new Spanish teacher. Can you like just please be nice to her and like encourage the other students to be nice to her? She's a good person. She's not here to try to control you guys' lives. She's a really good educator. And I was like, all right, like since you're asking. And you know, it worked out. Like she ended up really being a good educator. She didn't come down hard on us because one of my big things with like Spanish teachers, I wasn't raised speaking Spanish. I still don't speak it well. I understand it, but I used to always deal with these Spanish teachers getting on me for, oh, you Mexican, but you don't speak Spanish. It's like, oh, well, you forget that Spanish is a colonized language, that that's not actually the language of our people from the land. And that you also seem to forget that when processes of migration happen after several generations of Latin American families being in Mexico, Arizona, Texas, their offspring don't retain the language. They are forced to assimilate for survival. And so,
don't forget California.
And those are things that, sometimes elders don't want to reckon with or understand. They know it. They know that that's the reality, but they don't want to accept it. That some of us don't speak Spanish because you and your generation had a part in it and not carrying on that tradition or that culture or that connectivity that you wanted to have. And so like you're putting it on the backs of other people to teach your offspring Spanish. So you can't be getting on other people when you didn't do your part.
Of course, yes. And that's actually pretty huge. If you really want the next generation to, pretty much understand the culture, you have to embellish it in them as children. I think that's really important. So when you talked about having that low point where your grades slipped, what was their motivating factor of getting them back up?
I didn't want to be the first one in my family not to graduate high school out on all my siblings.
Oh yeah.
I have a large family, so I was like, nah, I ain't gonna be the one. That ain't me. But like I also was very intent like on this idea of going to college because like that was the facade that was projected onto me that you go to college, that is the definition of being successful. And in hindsight now, I could fully attest to that is incorrect.
Why you say that?
Going to college isn't the defining factor of someone being successful. You do not need to go to college in order to be successful. You do not need to go to college or have a college degree in order to demonstrate that you are able to intellectualize with other people. I know some of the smartest people I know do not have college degrees. And so, but at that time, that was that motivating factor. It's like, well, I need to do what I need to do to be able to even apply to a college.
Of course.
And so, that's how that helped shift it for me. But even then, I was like still in and out trouble, still doing stupid things. Like it was in front of us all the time. There's no way getting around it. And I think it wasn't until like a few years after high school where like I was like, okay, I need to take this seriously. I need to take academics seriously because now I know what I want to do. I don't want to just get a degree. I don't just want a piece of paper. And I don't just want a career. I want to do something that's impactful. And in order to do that, unfortunately, you need to get that piece of paper with those acronyms behind your name in order for people to take your credibility seriously.
Yeah, so and you mentioned having a big family, and whenever we go to your Instagram, we always see you with your nieces and nephews, and it's always a beautiful thing. How did you dodge the parental bully?
And as far as I know, I ain't got no biological children prior to 2022. I can say, dodging it, a lot of it was just being smart about what I was doing and how I moved. Like it doesn't mean, I was standoffish with people. Like I had plenty of, previous partners and girlfriends and such. But I also just made it clear, like, I'm not in the market of trying to have a family until I know that I'm ready to actually help carry a seed to fruition of life. Meaning, I'm not going to do that to an offspring. I'm not going to bring a kid into this world if I know I'm not capable of taking care of it. And so, timing was perfect recently. My wife and I, we had our son back this past September. He's 9 months old now.
Oh my God, Rob became a daddy. My man.
So that happened. And then in the process, we're a blended family. So I have a stepdaughter. She's 12. And that's really having a 12-year-old stepchild. I don't call her my stepchild, just call her my child. Having a 12-year-old daughter come into my life really sped up the process and really put in perspective, hey, yeah, you thought you dodged parenthood for a hot minute, but it caught up with you really quick.
Really quick. Okay, so before I get on to the next point, I want to get to some of these people. Okay, so Andre Golden said education is important. However, what is it today? What it is today is indoctrination. That's a wishy-washy point. It has truth in it. I'm not all the way privy on it, so I can't really say.
I'll say education, it can become a form of indoctrination depending on who is in charge of that knowledge transfer process and where it's being facilitated at. Because if you're just speaking to the same people in a vacuum, then it does become an intrinsic form of indoctrination, whether intended or not. A true form of education is, being able to bring very diverse perspectives and experiences, even the ones you don't agree with. I benefited from learning from people who I don't agree with. Doesn't mean like we hate each other. It just means like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Now I know how to be a better communicator and how to meet you halfway or make compromises if necessary.
Yeah, and I agree, because I think that's where I get a lot of the stuff that I learned from are people that I don't agree with. I have friends and family members I don't agree with. I think that really is important. Roji B asked, what made you go back for your PhD?
Back in 2016, if folks remember what happened, there's a shift in the White House. And at that time, I was working for the U.S. Department of Energy as a researcher at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And my project was halted for a couple months. I was working on a project that had to do with climate change and the Arctic ecosystem. Basically, that's a fancy way of saying I was sampling soil samples from Alaska and trying to see what those soil samples that had been frozen for thousands of years could tell us about what to expect in the future regarding changes in our climate. And
that's serious.
Unfortunately, like I said, the project was halted, and because I was on the lower end of that order of that list of who's prioritized to make sure they're taken care of, I wasn't really getting much hours at that time to work, which is really frustrating and really disrupted the progress we were making. So I just made that conscious decision. One, I want to have autonomy and self-determination over the type of work I do. And the only way to do that, unfortunately, specifically in the sciences, is you need to have a PhD, because you need a PhD in order to apply for most of the grants that are out there. And so that's why I went that route. But also because of what happened to me, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I felt like I got screwed over, and so I also made it a point that I want to do this so that when I do run my own project, I make sure that the people who are working with me, they're taken care of too. Doesn't matter if they're a research assistant, associate, an undergrad, a high school student. I'm gonna make sure that the money's always going to be there so that they're taken care of, regardless of what's going on policy wise. Um, Whether it something hyper conservative or hyper liberal or anything in the middle, I just want to make sure that uh, the way I write grants make sure that it's insulated from the bullshit that happens sometimes in the policy world.
Yeah, and that is very commendable, and I definitely appreciate helping people, not just in the community, but I mean, you have a cause that's trying to help the world, and you don't see that very often these days. So back to family. Okay, so you mentioned having a 12-year-old stepdaughter.
Yeah.
And as a person who once upon a time was a step parent, technically I still am, even though me and the mother aren't together. We haven't been together in a long ass time. I know I've had some tough times with step parenting, and having that transition into actual parenting of stepchildren. What is the most difficult part about step parenting for you?
I could preface all this by just saying it is a process, that in order to be a good parent, when you're stepping into a child's life, you got to make sure that you're checking yourself at every step and making sure that you're doing the things that are making them feel comfortable. And
Okay.
because at the end of the day, they're an innocent child in all of this, and a lot it could what feels like it may be happening slow for us is happening very fast for them.
Yeah.
And in my daughter's case, it was a situation where it was always just her and her mother, and biological, whatever you want to call it, was never really in the picture. And so, here I come entering, and I understood from the jump, like this was going to be a process, and it was going to require earning not just her trust, but also um, earning her confidence that I could be uh, someone suitable in that parent role, not just as a father, but being a parent, because her expectations and her standards were very high and very intertwined with her mother. And
Okay.
and that's a lot to live up to. Uh,
Yeah.
and there's 12 years, or at that time there's 11 years of history there. And so
Yeah.
when I entered, I had that conversation with her. I was very direct with her. I've always been a very direct person. And so I let my daughter know, like, this is what I got going on, but I don't expect you to do anything to try to adapt. You can adapt at your own pace. I was like, I'm not going to be weird and expect you to call me dad, or
Of
expect you to
course.
call me your dad in front of your friends or anything like that. That's fine. I was like, I don't have that expectation. And I was like,
Okay.
I said, what I do want though is your approval and your permission for me to move forward in this relationship with your mother. That was a big thing. And I think that's what really broke a lot of barriers down for us,
Mm-hmm.
because it felt like she had power. It felt like she was in the driver's seat with how this was going to turn out. And I think that made a big difference with how our relationship has been so far. Granted, it hasn't been perfect, hasn't been easy. Um,
It never is.
but it's been based on my anecdotal information. It sounds like what I've been going through is far less stressful and chaotic than most people's situation.
Uh, I would like to say that is an anecdotal thing, but I'm gonna tell you right now, because like I said, as a person who was a stepfather, I'm still playing that role in a sense to this day. I can tell you right now, it's not it's not uncommon, because I can tell you right now, there's plenty of stepdads out there who are making that thing work. And I have to ask you, do you think the successes that you're seeing, not just with the relationship between you and her, but as a parent, do you see any or all of that as rewarding? And if so, how so?
Yeah, I definitely see it as rewarding, and I see it rewarding because you see them living out these experiences that we wish we could have had when we were younger, and to know that they're living out those experiences, and not all, and at the same time simultaneously not having a chip on the shoulder about, stepdad in the picture, but they're living out these experiences and they're taking my advice. And it's gotten to the point where like it's rewarding now, because sometimes she'll reach out to me before she ever reaches out to her mom,
Right.
about asking for permission for things, or to do stuff, or to hang out with her friend. And I'm like, okay, I see how this is right now. Either I'm the cool parent, or I'm the one that's very easy to take advantage of. It may be the latter, but
oh my God, I hate that.
but no, like sometimes, like she texted me, even though we're like in the room right beside each other, she'll like text me at midnight, like, oh, should I buy this? Can I buy this? What do you think about this video I just made? Because she's like, she loved making like edits for TikTok, and she's like, what do you think about this? And I just think like that's very wholesome. That's not an experience that even most biological fathers get to experience. And it's all about building that connection. And to me, that's the most rewarding component of it, because those connections exist, and these are connections that I know are gonna take her a long way. It's not for my benefit. It's supposed to be advantageous for her, so she has the right tools to know how to succeed in life. Meaning, when shit gets deep, and when the waters get really high on her, she's gonna know that it's safe to come to me to ask for help. She's never gonna feel like, oh shit, I don't want to go to him because he's a cynical stepdad, or he's gonna judge me, or he's gonna say some shit, or he's gonna say it's my fault. Like, she's gonna know, like, I'm always gonna be there for her, and I'm always gonna make sure that um, I'm gonna step up for her, and I have, like, though, and she's seen that, like, things have gone down at school, and I took care of business really quick. Weird construction workers whistled at her and her friends. Mind you,
Oh,
grown ass men whistling at little girls.
oh,
Took
yeah,
care,
that's
took
foul.
care, took care of things quick, and we're in the process of getting some people fired. And I don't care. When you're a pervert like that, and when you do
Hell
you,
yeah.
when you do things like that, it doesn't matter if you knew they're minors or not. That's unacceptable. And so I was like, you know what? Don't care. You don't
Oh
violate
yeah.
people like that.
Yeah, perverts, they deserve to as far as I'm concerned, if you going after little girls, you should get the chair. Okay. That's just my opinion. Okay. Now people may not agree with that. They should get the chair. Okay. Because yeah, no, not cool. Not
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
But yeah, those are examples of, like, how and why it's rewarding, because she knows that she can come to me when shit doesn't feel right, or when she's in the situation. And like that feels really nice. It's like, okay, this feels like I didn't miss any years. It feels like um, we're at a point of relationship that people built over a decade's time, but we were able to successfully do this in a short period.
Okay. All right. So real quick. Okay. See, I have to. So I'm gonna have to allow him to come in and speak for a little bit, because I think you'll like. Oh crap! I think I. Wait. Did I hit the? Okay. Wait. Did I hit the right one? Did I hit the right one? I don't think I hit. I don't think I hit the right one. Ah, crap baskets. Hold on 1 second. I might have goofed something here real quick. Wait. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Just making sure of that. Okay.
You say crap baskets.
Don't judge me, okay? I watch anime parodies, okay? Look, okay, so let me give you some backstory on this. If you don't know this, stop me if you heard this already. So as you probably would have guessed, I watch anime. I watch anime, and on YouTube there are some platforms that have anime parodies, and in one of those parodies, and let me just get to the point here. It was Dragon Ball Z. They have a parody on YouTube, and I'll probably leave the link in the chat in a second here. In the parody, a lot of the characters will say crap baskets because and it's funny too, because you hear when the people who say crap baskets get together, and then one of them said, one of the other guy will be like, "Oh, you say that too." So it's just like, okay, all these guys are coming together with all of their buffoonery, and it's just hilarious. I can tell you right now, I laughed so hard watching some of these anime parodies that I had to go to the hospital because I was having chest pains. I thought I was having a goddamn heart attack. But believe it or not, it has all of that was so much better for me. Okay, so back to the blah blah blah. So we talked about we talked about how things are being as step parents, and I can tell you right now, there's definitely hard times. Obviously, there's great times. I can tell you right now, I actually had the luxury of watching my stepdaughter play football. Out there getting down and dirty with the boys. You'll never see nothing like that.
Yeah.
But with all of that, okay, because a lot of people don't usually get to have these kind of stories. But did you have like this kind of thing when it came to your upbringing with your parents?
What was that?
I'm talking about, as far as, you have, the goods, the bads, and then, how comfortable you were and are with them as far as your parents are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have the goods and the bad. But I'd say the level of comfort and like sharing with them, like when I'm going through shit or when shit had gone down when I was younger, that's definitely like a no-fly zone for me. Because because it's just like, that's not, I didn't feel like we had that type of relationship back then to be able to dive into anything like that. Like, oh, hey, I need to get out of this situation, or hey, I'm going through this, or hey, can I get some fatherly advice on this? We just weren't there yet with the relationship. I could say it's very different now. Like my father and I are really close now. And I think it's a lot of growing pains. Like,
oh man,
we're healing from trauma. He's healing from trauma. Everyone's healing from different forms of things that society has put on, Black and brown communities. And sometimes it's just things that are beyond our control. You have parents from the people from our parent generation. They had their backs up against the wall when
they did
when it was time to raise a family and trying to navigate a society that was very tricky at best to survive in. We're lucky. Like we can complain a lot if we want to. I try not to, but we can complain a lot about like a lot of the injustices that happen. But the difference is we have the ability to take action. We have so many resources at our fingertips now to galvanize people. If we see something wrong, our generation has the ability to act on it almost instantaneously. And so, that's the big difference. And I think that underscores a lot of, the differences, because they come from a generation where in order to induce change, it required a lot of people power and people hours to make that change happen. Whereas in our generation, we can make it happen quick.
And sometimes by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Something I can actually say I'm pretty proud of. I mean, yes, I know being progressive at times can be considered a dirty word because of how it's done, but a lot of people don't realize that this was a thing that's been going on since the civil rights movement, and even going into the 80s, 90s. And so oh crap, hold on, technical difficulties. See. Look,
Change that profile picture.
Look, first off, leave my profile picture alone, okay?
That looked like stranger danger on Tinder.
Look, first off, I like that picture. That's why I made it that picture. Okay, y'all. Look,
that looked like swipe right. I might take your life.
Hey, actually, believe it or not, that is actually the first joking of that picture that didn't include my hairline.
I try not to get on people's physical features.
Hey, look, I already know, man. I'm losing my hair. Shit, I'm 36. It was gonna happen eventually. Look, I'm gonna show you. Look, I seen some things about my biological grandfather not too long ago. This was a picture of him in 2009 before he kicked the bucket. So I'm just like, I mean, if I'm doomed to this, I'm okay with it. At this point, it's just like, look, I can always just go to Turkey and get it back for a little fee. Look, y'all think I'm joking. I work 2 jobs. That second job puts money in my pocket pretty quickly. It's actually Lyft, by the way. I mean, it ain't much, but I can, it's
quick.
It's quick, and look, $10,000 later, I'm going to Turkey, coming back. Y'all wouldn't even y'all will see a different version. All of this, look, fuck around me. I'll be saluting right here. Look, I won't even have eyebrows. All that will be connected, and then I'll be like, "Then what?" Shit, I ain't even gonna cap though. I can't. There's no point in me really doing it anyway. I still probably plan on doing it, but there's no point in me doing it for the simple fact that my hair won't grow out that far anyway. So it's not like I can like get dreads or something like that. But anyway, before technical difficulties arise and were overcome, so I know it's a little too personal, but are your parents married or still married?
Yeah, they're still married.
Oh man, I envy you. Look, my parents been divorced for over 30 years. They hate each other, and I can tell you right now, it is hell. There's one thing that really can destroy children. It will definitely be a divorce, and it's not just regular divorce, but divorces where the parents are trying to prove they're the better parent. And so I just hope anybody who gets married succeeds where I fail, and definitely where my parents fail, because they fucking suck. And yes, before anybody says anything, my mama is watching this. So look, I'm gonna die, okay? She gonna get me eventually.
You gonna meet the creator today or the next day. It don't matter.
It's gonna be okay. Ro GB, shut up, okay? He said more like love, hate, and tell the whole truth. Look, shut up, okay? They hate each other and it fucking fucks with all of us, asshole. That's my uncle, by the way.
Oh, it could be difficult for when people split and they don't necessarily always understand the ramifications that has on the innocent children. And that's something like I always respected about my wife. Granted, she wasn't with my daughter's bio parent that long, but like she makes it a point never to talk shit about him in front of her. She keeps that separate. Granted, yes, every couple that split more than likely has issues, but she keeps that separated, and I respect that. And every now and then when homeboy wants to float around, I'm not like, oh, you can't see him. Like, I encourage my daughter. I'm like, go say hi to him, go tell him thank you for coming to your game, whatever. Because I'm not going to be the one that makes her feel like she has to feel some type of way. Like I said, parenting the process, so is growing up as a child. And, children are going to learn in the process who they feel most comfortable with and, where I don't want to say allegiances, it's not allegiance, but where their trust lays at most, or feels most perfectly laid at. And so, and again, like sometimes it's just a matter of, having to swallow our pride. For me, it is no pride, it is no ego, because like I'm I'm secure with who I am. I have no insecurities about what I'm capable of doing and who I am in the picture and in my roles. I've never been one to feel threatened about what I represent and who I am and how I move. So, I mean, if anyone else feels like that in the capacity of my specific situation, or feel different, I guess, or insecure, that's on them.
Yeah.
I can't help anyone who feels insecure about their situation. It's like if you feel insecure, then step up and do something about it.
Agreed. And so family, I can't stress family enough. So every time family comes in, oh my goodness, somebody came in trying to say I'm captain. Anyway, so said he keeps cutting his hair. Yeah, eventually I gotta cut my hair, right? I mean, it's gonna get all over the place. Then I'm gonna start looking like stink meaner, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants them problems. Anyway, so I get really passionate about family because I know we grew up, especially in a time where it was expected that fathers weren't supposed to be around, and carrying that stigma into our adulthood. We're going to have children and leave them and all this other weird stuff. So despite you living in a 2-parent household, how did you have to go how did you go around that stigma?
Yeah, I mean, like to an extent, there are parallels with still how I grew up, because like my dad was still in and out of trouble. I mean, I remember nights where, sometimes we were like, me and my siblings would be like, oh, is he coming home tonight or is he in jail again? And it's like, that again, it's just like that was the normalcy though for that generation. And when they went through stuff like that, there's that profile picture again. That's
Damn it. Look, man, get off of my profile picture. I ain't gonna say it no more. All right.
But no, it's like, but at the same time, he also carries that like traditional value, like the man has to work and the woman can stay home and watch the kids. And so there are times when like my dad was working like 2-3 jobs and we didn't see him much. And so like that enabled what I alluded to earlier, where him and I weren't really close growing up because he wasn't around much. He was always working. Right. And so like I give him props and kudos for keeping a roof over her head and food on the table. But I think I would have much preferred to have a present father. And I'm learning from that, and that's how I feel about my 9-month-old son right now. Like I'd rather be present than working all the time.
Yeah, shout out to Papa Lopez wherever you at. Yeah, shout out. Hey, we're gonna give him his roses right now because I think it's really important, And shout out to my dad too, wherever that old stink meaner is. He's somewhere down the street because he got engaged again. Oh, but no, yeah, Pops is amazing. So, what are the things that you are going to be looking forward to when it comes to raising your son?
I look forward to him just living out life how he wants to live it out. Meaning, if boy wants to play sports, I'll be excited for that. If he doesn't, that's cool too. If he wants to be a bookworm, that's cool. Like my thing is, I'm just excited to see him mold into what he wants to be molded into, not be a mirror image of me, not be feel like he has to fill any of my shoes. And that really ties into the whole process of when it was time to give him a name.
Yeah.
There were conversations around, oh, you can name him after you. He could be like Robin Jr. And like, as cool as that sounds, I was like, I don't want to name a son after me. I was like, I think that for me, it's not anything against anyone else. It's just my own personal belief within myself, because my dad did name one of his sons after himself. But for me, I'm just like, that would make me feel like a narcissist. That would make me feel like very self-centered and a list of things of like naming someone after me because I expect them to be like me. And I know that's not how everyone thinks when they're naming a son after them. It's more of like carry on this legacy for me. And I didn't want my son growing up feeling like he had to carry on a legacy that resembled mine, because the reality is I'm going to finish my PhD. I'm finishing out things in elected office, and I don't want him growing up thinking he has to get a PhD or he has to do everything I did to live up to these weird quasi expectations of what it means to be successful. I don't want him to feel like he thinks he has to go straight to college in order to have my acceptance. That's why I said earlier, I'm looking forward to him just molding into what he wants to be molded into, such that he has good ethics and good values and is doing his part in society to be a good human.
Yeah. See, I'm offended by that narcissist comment because I, sir, am a third. I wasn't named by my dad. My mother named me. Okay. See, y'all over here with running around with this, trying to. I'm gonna tell you right now, right? And this is no stab at anybody who won't do that. My parents and my grandparents, they figured out, naming their first son, giving their first son the name was because it was just it was. I don't know. My grandfather wanted to start a tradition, and my dad, believe it or not, wanted to give the name to my twin. But I came out first, so my mom was like, "He's coming out first." I don't know how they came to that conclusion. I don't care. And the reason, and so where I do believe that that giving your first son your name does kind of come with some kind of expectation, because I do try to live up to how my dad was. Now, yeah, my dad who just completed his master's and is working on his PhD as well at 59. I didn't carry the same path that my dad did, because my dad went to the Army. I went to the Navy. My dad was a great dad with 4 kids. I only had 2. Well, technically 3, but at the same time, it's like, even with us, and even with all of that, my dad didn't do the things that my grandfather did, and it's like, so I do understand like where people expect to have a certain expectation, but there are just some things that are just not gonna happen. And I can tell you right now, even to this day, my dad still loves and supports me. And even if I didn't go down his career path or live the life he's lived, it's never about, what we want. I mean, we just have this, we have the same name, and he embraced the difference in our identities, because at the end of the day, even if he was the one and he was adamant about me having his name, I still wouldn't be him, for the simple fact that we don't have the same parents.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I could say too, like, in that process of like naming my son, all those thoughts went to my mind. I was like, at the end of the day, you're spot on. At the end of the day, you walk different paths. And I never want my son to feel like, I already know how I'm going to feel, but I don't know how my son's going to feel. He's a new human, and I don't know if he's ever going to internalize anything or not. And, also, I don't know how he's going to completely turn out. If he's going to be a good human, or if he's going to be a boy that commits fraud. I don't need him having the same name as me, taking out credit cards under my name and taking shit out. I'm saving my ass.
Oh man, that's cold. But I like it. I like it. That's cold, but I like it because I can tell you right now. Hey, I can tell you right now. I didn't contemplated it, but I was like, if this old man dies tomorrow, I can still collect his pension. Don't tell nobody I said that. Look, YouTube gonna snitch on my look. YouTube gonna kick my ass in a minute. All right.
But yeah, like in that process of naming him, I decided to give him the strongest name possible, rooted in our own culture and within. When I say culture, I mean specifically our indigenous roots in Mexico, and so I gave him a name that is rooted in the Nahuatl language, which is Aztec language.
Aztec,
his name's Omateo. Omateo means the Lord of duality. It's the supreme being of everything that exists. And so I was like, fuck it. When he's older, he gets to tell everyone, I'm the Lord of duality.
Okay, we just gonna call nephew Tao. Does that work?
We call him Omi.
Okay, we're gonna call nephew Omi then. Okay, so everybody, we're gonna call the nephew Omi, all right? Because that's a lot easier. That's a lot easier.
He's Omi the homie.
Omi the hey, I like that. I love that. Omi the homie.
So yeah, also when we think about names, we're like, okay, we also need to think about nickname, because if we're gonna give him a traditional Aztec name, we know those names could be very difficult and challenging for even Spanish speakers to pronounce. So we need to think of it. We need to think and come up with a name that's also easy to come up with a nice nickname that rolls correctly. And we're like, Omi sounds hella dope. Like, how often do you come across someone who you call Omi?
Let's see, and I like that. And see, and my baby mama is talking message to me right now, so I'm over here distracted. Look, I'm over here distracted by my baby mama because that's her thing. That's what she does. But okay, so you talk about Aztec, your Aztec roots, and I barely know much about it. Because I know Aztec, the Aztec Empire was in northern Mexico versus the Mayan Empire, which was in southern Mexico. Have you done any studies on Aztec culture?
Yeah, and then that's the big reason why I decided to move forward with naming my son how I named him. It would be inappropriate to give someone a name like that and not know the meaning of the history behind it.
Okay.
And not know the value, the cultural value and significance of it. Because when I do talk to other folks out here in the Bay Area who are deeply vested in indigenous Mexican roots, when they hear that his name is Omateo, their jaws always drop and they're like, do you know how powerful that name is? And and they'll tell me, they're like, your son's special. He's going to do something amazing. And so like that's always dope to hear, because to name someone, to give him the name that he was been given, that's not something people take lightly. And so, and we originally did have a different name for him that was rooted in Aztec culture in the Nahuatl language. But when he was in the womb, he dealt with a lot of shit that I won't get into details about, but so much to the point where even the doctors were telling us, you need to think about terminating this pregnancy. And so, that struck us really deeply. And at the same time, we were like, if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. If it's not, it's not. We also need to think about his quality of life. And, it put us in a very challenging situation. And then, I don't know. There's no way to explain it other than miracles, but miracles happen. And I was like, you know what? There's something really special happening with this little boy. I'm gonna give him the most powerful name possible because he's earned it. And so,
Omi is a warrior. He was born a warrior because he fought through odds. And I say this: his parents believed, and they believed in him. They gambled, and y'all won, and that's the way I see it. And I have to give you even more kudos to that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
He's still handling his business. He's he was a NICU baby. That means he was in the ICU right after he was born to address some of the lingering issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's already had 2 surgeries. He's expected to have another surgery before he's turns 1 year old. And so that's never easy as a parent, but this boy is handling like a champ. And, it amazes people when they see him. They would never think, oh, that child's been through multiple surgeries, or this child had been through some shit. He's just a happy little boy. And every time anyone sees him in person or looks him in the eyes, they're just like, whoa, his eyes are like hypnotizing. If you've seen the photos of him that I post on Instagram, everyone talked about how big his eyes are, and there's just like something about his eyes are very hypnotizing. And so I'm just like, yeah, I was like, that's because he's the Lord Duality. Get it right.
Right. Like I said, Lil Omi the homie. He was born a warrior. He was conceived a warrior, and I can tell you right now, I love that. I love that he's gonna have a hell of a story to tell as he gets older. So we get we get into that, and then how was sorry, I didn't have a whole mic, so and I don't drink like I used to, so my tolerance is not as great as it once was. So how do we how does transition into that fatherhood and not only just between you and your wife, how did your daughter go into this, knowing that she has a little brother?
It was I wouldn't say it's challenging. I'd say it's very confusing at first, I think, for her, because it's like she's so used to being the only child for so long. And then here comes this other tiny little human who does require a lot of attention. And so, there was, but we already knew that existed, that these feelings or these concerns existed prior to him arriving. Because we have such a great relationship with her, she expressed it to us. She let us know what she's feeling and what her concerns were, and we reassured her. We were like, no one's going to be forgotten. Because she did express that. She said, "What if you forget about me because you're so focused on the baby? And what if everyone just is so focused on the baby and they forget that I'm your kid too?" And we're like, that's not going to happen. You're going to do everything with us. You're going to go everywhere with us. Ain't nothing going to change. And if anything, I told her like privately, I was like, if anything, this is better for you, because now this means like you get to, get away with doing more things with your friends because we're so caught up with the baby. And, it has been worked out really well, because we also ended up recently moving or relocating out of Richmond into Albany. And so having a new baby brother come, then changing schools, that was a huge shift. But it ended up working out really nicely, because now she has like these really dope friends who she loved being around with, and they love her little brother. And so like yesterday, like she had a whole squad over here at the house of her little friends, and there's like, oh, where's Omi? And so like that, I think it ended up working out really well, better than most situations when there's such a huge age gap, because we had those conversations early, but also because she had the emotional intelligence to communicate that to us. Because otherwise, we probably would just assume, oh, she's going to be excited that a baby brother's coming. But she made it very clear what was on her mind.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because that shows that she trusts that she can come to you guys with her concerns, and that's something that any parent can appreciate. So switching gears, you talked about the politics game. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, So I'm currently an elected official. I'm a city council member here in Albany. And it's very interesting, very different, because it is Albany. Anyone who's familiar with the location, if you're not, Albany is perceived as a predominantly white middle class community. And so for someone like me and my image and my background to step in after living here for less than a year and take up elected office, it definitely ruffled up some feathers around here and got people talking. But it's also dope because I'm the first Latino that's ever been elected into city council here in the city, which I speak to progress, but also speak to lack thereof. But I certainly see it as a dope experience to be able to be that form of representation and try and encourage more people, regardless of their race, gender, culture, religion, whatever it is, for them to see someone like me take up that role and hopefully motivate them to step in and be like, okay, my experiences, they're not just valid, but they do matter in the policy shifting world as well. But no, it's been dope. I could say I haven't really ran into much issues since being sworn into office. It's been pretty smooth. But granted, we're a really small city, so we don't deal with as much issues like Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond.
Right. And just so we're clear, everybody, he's saying Albany, California, not the capital of New York. So, because it's really easy to get those two mixed up. I mean, it's not, but it is. And see, and as a person who considered doing council, running for council here in Sacramento, the only problem for me is that I had this one underlying issue and that was who my competition was. And unlike you, I have 0 degrees. And the only prestige that I have is being a military veteran. So I was like, yeah, I knew for a fact if I called myself running, I would get crushed. So it was just like, for me, it was like, maybe I should just step back. Plus, I don't like politics anyway. So for me, it was better for me to just, for me, it was just better to know my role.
Mm-hmm.
But you got so what was the process like, and how did you follow the election process as it went through?
The process was really simple. I thought it'd be much more challenging because that's what they make politics seem like. They make it seem like you can't enter it unless like you're hella got the backing and got money straight up. It's like, I didn't need nothing to get started. It was just as simple as going down to City Hall, asking for some paperwork to filling out that paperwork, getting a handful of signatures from people in the community, because you need like X amount of signatures to qualify for the ballot from legally registered voters in whatever jurisdiction you want to run in, consistent across the country. Which I did, and then then there's the election cycle, and it's just campaigning. And I could tell you, though I ran on a slate with like 2 other people, much of my success during the campaign came from word of mouth, people just knowing who I was, because I've been doing so much in the communities and in the sciences for so long. A lot of people already knew my name, and so.
Right.
It was like neighbors telling neighbors and people coming up to me like, oh, my neighbor's so-and-so who you used to work with at the Berkeley Lab, and they said, we need to vote for you. And I'm like, that's dope. And someone else like, I heard you speak at a conference, and I live here in Albany, I'm telling all my friends to vote for you. So that word of mouth and social media ended up being like the big thing for me. Granted, yeah, the election money helped, but we didn't need heavy money to finance a successful election.
Why would you spend?
All right. See, and that's good. So you already had clout in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So you talked about community work. Okay, so like, what were some of the things that you were doing in the community, minus the work that you were doing at Berkeley Lab?
Teaching 4th and 5th grade class, a weekend class for a nonprofit.
Like I told you,
Had classes at Contra Costa
people,
College.
it's just some people in the world who choose to be miserable, and if they
What's
ain't got
going on
nothing
over
to
there?
be upset about,
Hold on 1 second.
Oh,
Mom,
I'm sorry. I put this in here.
I'm doing a thing here, like Chris Tucker said. I'm doing a show, and I'm like, pop, pop, pop.
Slap him, Mom. Slap him.
Dude, don't tell my mama to slap me. You gonna get me slapped.
I'm sorry, son, but we were talking about something.
Okay, well, she loud and you louder, and y'all. Come on, everybody.
I could be rude because you're still talking to me instead of talking to them. You made your statement, move on, son.
Y'all still being loud over here interrupting my. Oh, got my whole little thing. You see it? Love you too, Mom. Okay. Oh,
Slap him, Mom. Slap him.
you over here trying to get me abused and stuff. Like I ain't deal with enough of this. Look. Do you want to see me make more episodes of this? Okay. So, come on, man.
I want to see the one where Mom the guest host on the next episode.
Look. You gonna mess around, and I might have to make her a co-host on the next episode or something like that. Y'all gonna look. Don't everybody don't listen to him. He over here trying to set me up to failure.
Inciting violence.
Inciting violence. Yeah, now you inciting violence. You inciting abuse. You inciting everything. They should just kick you off of YouTube right now. What am I talking about? Look, you gonna get me in trouble, all right? Oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not monetized.
Yeah, like community work that I was doing. I was teaching for a local nonprofit, teaching a 4th and 5th grade class on the weekend. We do extensive outreach activities, just going out into different schools and community centers in Richmond and San Pablo, doing like science workshop. I would go out and do like guest lectures and speaking gigs. Those were fun. Before the pandemic hit, I'd get to go across the country and speak, and people cash me out. And that felt really nice. That people want to actually hear our experiences and get to know, what is our mentality and our motivations for why we do what we do, and not just trivialize or write off our community and people from our community as people who are not motivated or don't have the potential, or all the deficit thinking.
Hold on, hold on 1 second. I gotta do this because I'm tired of you talking about my damn picture and me looking like whatever it is you call me. That's starting to get on my damn nerves. It's starting to make me feel bad about
stranger danger.
Yeah, stranger danger. Look, I'm y'all starting to make me question about the goodness, the quality of my pictures. Okay, but continue.
Well, no, that's essentially it. Not having those breadth of experiences, being able to, not just do work in my own community and surrounding communities, but like across the country.
Right.
Definitely allowed me to be in a position where I had some form of name recognition. Not saying like I was famous or anything like that. Certainly not. But people recognize who I was, or if they Googled me, it was very easy to find information about me and see, okay, this is a genuine person. He also has the credentials. He knows what he's talking about. He's probably the truth.
Right, and that's good. So, would you go as far as saying that you would probably like to elevate yourself in the world of politics?
Hell no.
Oh wow, why?
That's not what I was in it for. I was, I ran because you make the biggest differences locally. There's this misconception that the biggest changes happen at the federal level. Those are probably where the most impactful thing can happen at time in waves. But the biggest changes are rooted in local politics and local government. What happens locally is what influences what happens at the state and federal level. And so I just think it's an opportunity to really push for changes at the local level, around better housing practices, better support system for our education, our library, things that feel like at times they're becoming obsolete, but it's because people don't necessarily realize those resources are there. But also just making sure this community, if I end up making this my forever community, that it's in a good position for my son to grow up in. It's in a good position for my daughter to finish out high school in and be able to come back from her college days. I just want to make sure it's in a really good place. Because local politics and local government isn't just always around, doesn't always just have to be fixated on changing laws or policies or ordinances. It's also about setting the tone for what community engagement and dialogue among community members looks like. So if you could facilitate this idea of having good cohesion across the community and making it feel that people, regardless of what their ideologies are, can still coexist in a community peacefully, then I think my job is done. Because we do, it's inevitable. The divisiveness does exist, and there's a lot that still need to be unpacked there and reckoned with. And I know I'm not going to fix it in 4 years' time, but it could definitely influence a lot of changes and bring people to the table to talk to each other. And that doesn't always require having to change any type of policy or ordinance in the city. It's just making people see, oh, we want the same thing. We just have a different approach and methodology.
So what are some of the things that are you looking for to changing or making better within the Albany community?
How people think about this idea of, so every city in the state of California is required to pass what's called a housing element plan. And these housing element plans stipulate that every city has to increase their housing stock, and so that there are livable opportunities for people as our population's increasing. And so there is a lot of back and forth around that. Like, what does that look like in a small community like Albany? Because our city's population is only like 20,000. And our housing element plan, based on expectations and calculations from the state, we have to come up with like an additional 1,100 units of housing in a small city that's only like 1.25 square miles. And that's a tall order to ask. And in doing that, yeah, you're gonna impact the ways of living for some people, a lot of people actually, because you're talking not just about bringing in more people, you're also talking about changing the general landscape of what this community looks like. A lot of people live here because they like the small town charm. It's like, for those familiar, there's Solano Avenue. A lot of people love, being able to go down Solano Avenue and just walking back to their house. It may look immensely more crowded in years to come once these 1,000+ units get added into this little city. But in that process of trying to balance that conversation of what does it look like, I think most people in this community understand, yes, we do need more housing. I think the differences of opinion comes at, like, where do you put the housing? How do you make that happen? And so, bringing people together and trying to have those conversations is important. But also in the process of increasing housing stock, that means you're inevitably going to increase what the general makeup of the city looks like in terms of identity, cultures, and background. So I want to make sure that as we're bringing in more people, that we communicate, or we at least make it clear that this is a community where people who look like you and I could live in and we could feel comfortable living in.
Of
And
course.
because I always grew up with the understanding that Albany is not a place for us. I grew up understanding like you don't get off that exit that goes into Albany because they'll pick you really quick. And so
Every time. Look, and as a person who's been picked in Albany,
mhm,
just driving, I got off at the wrong exit. I can tell you right now, that is an experience I wouldn't wish on anybody.
yeah, it's a reality, and it's something that it's a generational reality that our elders have always told us never get off that Buchanan exit. And so like we all understood that. And that
And it's funny, I got off. It's funny, I got off on Buchanan exit.
Yeah. And so that still exists today. It's not some made up fantasy where we think, oh, someone's trying to get us. It's like, no, harm was done.
It's a
And
lived experience.
if we're trying to encourage people to come live in this city, we need to make it very clear that it's a very different community. And so, that requires having dialogue with the police chief, that requires having dialogue with community members and with city staff. So it's an interesting process, but I think that housing element issue or plan is an issue in itself at times. That housing element plan really intersect a lot of different things that have to come together in terms of policy and in terms of how we need to change the culture in this city.
Okay, so I have a quick question. So a few weeks ago, I actually drove through Albany safely this time. And I know the main street that goes through Albany is San Pablo Avenue. Everybody knows about San Pablo Avenue. It goes from Oakland all the way to wherever Hilltop Mall is. Let me say was.
There you go.
And driving up San Pablo Avenue, even through Albany, there has been two issues. And as a person who works for the state, this is something that I would like to address, and is the condition of the roads and traffic. Okay, so I don't know if that's something that can be addressed at the local level, but what are some possible changes that can be made to mitigate the issues with the roads and traffic?
So those are definitely things that could be addressed at the local level, and they are being addressed. We have currently underway what's called our traffic calming plan for various side streets, but then we also have our traffic master plan, which includes resolving issues along San Pablo Ave and the other main street, Marin Ave. Marin Ave is getting taken care of actively right now. The whole that street is much better now. San Pablo Ave, the next one, and you should expect in the next couple of years that San Pablo Ave section through Albany and Berkeley is going to look very different in terms of conditions of the road, in terms of usability for pedestrians. That's a big thing for me. Like, if we want to encourage people to frequent mom and pop shops, we need to make sure that the sidewalks are also taken care of. It's not just streets for people to commute to different places and patronize the shop, but we also need to make sure the sidewalks are in good walkable conditions and conditions for people who have mobility issues. So those are the things that traffic master plan taking on right now is making sure those issues are being addressed. I think right now where we recently had a review process, and we have one of our city commission in the process of sending recommendations and advice back to city council for us to consider and vote on around traffic conditions. But no, those are things that are actively happening. I'm happy you brought it up because it's a perfect example of sometimes we see issues and we think someone else is going to raise the issue, and so we don't say anything, or we think, oh, the local elected official is probably busy and it's no use in emailing them or giving them a call. the truth is, all the elected officials who I've communicated with, in Berkeley, Oakland, here, especially here in Albany, Richmond, El Cerrito, San Pablo, Hercules, Vallejo, like, yeah, I'm friends with a lot of them, and we appreciate when people in our community, our constituents, reach out to us and let us know they're the problem, because we can't see everything all the time. But the moment we know there's a problem, we're on it with city staff, and we're like, hey, someone please go check this out. Someone raised this concern, and if it's something that can't be immediately resolved and requires a special ordinance or a policy change, then we look into what is necessary to change policy to address that issue. So you mentioned it. I hope this is a good example for anyone watching. Like, mentioning it is a big deal. It really does have an impact, a significant impact. And I just encourage you to complain all the time. If you're, if you're out in Sacramento, complain about the conditions out there, and make things get addressed. Oftentimes, if we get a high frequency of the same thing, it's the same issue, it get taken care of really fast. That shouldn't be the case, but that's just the reality of the situation.
So are all the councilmen within the different cities and whatnot, are they all always in communication with one another?
For the most part, a lot of us, we're just, I wouldn't say we communicate daily or anything like that, but we're always interacting with each other. Sometimes by virtue of these conferences that they have to like bring us together that are officially sponsored, but sometimes we just hang out together on our own, and we're not always talking politics, because that can get boring.
I know, right?
But sometimes we just chill, and I think that's really dope, because it shows the human side of politics. And the ones that I communicate a lot with, we're all young, and it really
that's good.
It shows like there's this wave of new young politicians. But we don't see ourselves as politicians. We see ourselves as public servants. We're not here to say shit just to get a vote. We're here to say shit because we mean it and we want action. And I know that scares a lot of people, because it ruptures the status quo of what people think politicians should be.
In other words, it scares the boomers.
It scares the boomers. Thankfully, there are enough boomers that believe in what we're doing and that have helped get us voted in. But there's still enough people that we hear that side chatter. There's the fear mongering, the frustrations when they see people like us. And when I say people like us, the younger generation who have new and fresh ideas that are informed from our own values and lived experiences. And so I think that's dope to see that happen and see that coming in full circle, that what we went through as children, we're fixing right now and addressing. We didn't like the street. We didn't like the street conditions. We didn't like the ways our parks were maintained. We didn't like how we were treated by city staff or by local law enforcement. These are things we can now have influence and power over to try and change.
Okay, and so one more thing before I let you go for the day. So I want to ask this question because this is something that has been on my mind even when I was a small child, and because we talk about how there's always been heavy traffic in the Bay Area, and there was something that I noticed as I had gone through it just a few weeks ago. So I wouldn't just talk about this is not just an Albany thing, but it's a Bay Area thing, and I wanted to know what has Albany itself addressed as far as trying to encourage the people to probably just use public transportation to help mitigate the traffic problem, especially going through I-80, because as you already know, it is jam-packed in the morning, afternoon, evening, you name it, it's packed.
Yep, that shit's a hot mess.
So do you guys do like any kind of campaigning for that? Because I know in Sacramento that's a thing. They encourage people to try to use public transportation. And as a person who owns a car, and I say some days I'm like, you know what, let me get on the light road today. I'm not gonna look, you know, what do you guys try to encourage the people of Albany to try to use public transportation?
Yeah, when possible, and we try to we have good relationship with AC Transit. BART's going through their own ways right now, but we do encourage people to use BART because the BART station is literally just a short walk for most people.
It is
at El Cerrito Plaza. But we also try to encourage people to consider using bikes, electric bikes. We have bike racks throughout most of the main streets that were recently installed during the pandemic to encourage people to get out. Though the caveat there is not everyone rides bikes, and not everyone can afford to get bikes, and not everyone has a schedule that would allow them to use public transportation. There are people who need to get to work at 3-4 a.m. and public transportation is not feasible. But we do try to encourage the people who do have the privilege and ability to use public transportation. And we do that again by local level policies where we push forward to have more bike racks. If you put it out there in front of people, then people are more likely to be like, maybe I should use that bike rack. It's just human psychology sometimes. It's like you put something in front of them, a human's going to want to touch it. Part of what you're going to see on San Pablo Ave is reconfigured bike lane, because they also want to encourage more biking, whether it's for recreation or commuting purposes. But the plan for all of San Pablo Ave, stretching from Hercules to Oakland, is to have a nice dedicated bike lane so that people who may not want to drive their car for the day and want to bike can do it along that main corridor that goes through much of the East Bay, San Pablo Ave. I will say that's everything in theory that we would love to work. But the reality is pandemic hit, and it fucked up a lot of conditions in terms of public transportation and the infrastructure and the funding to maintain that infrastructure. As we all know, BART took a major hit because the pandemic hit. AC Transit had to scale some of their lines down because of the pandemic. We have people in our community actually who are, I wouldn't say begging, but they are asking and they are questioning, when are they going to get an AC Transit line back to where it used to be next to their residence? If you remember, or if you know those several tall buildings in Albany at the end of Pierce Street, there's a lot of people who live there. Those are a bunch of condos stacked on each other, and there was a bus line.
Those skyscrapers or borderline skyscrapers
that hella stand out. So there was a bus line that was previously there.
If I'm not mistaken, it was the 88, right?
Yeah, I believe it's the 88, and that was a main bus line that a lot of people over at the end of Pierce Street would rely on to go to the rest of Albany or go to other places throughout the Bay Area, and it's not active anymore. And so we have people who want public transportation. So we're trying to talk with AZ Transit, like, how do we make this happen? What is required other than the obvious issue of funding? Do you need community members to come out to like really tell you what's going on and why they need this? Because it's unfortunate, but it does that, because that line is inactive now. It cuts a lot of people off from feeling like they're part of this community. And I can imagine that's very similar in other cities throughout the Bay Area.
Yeah, it is definitely a change here in Sacramento as well. And I've studied AC Transit bus maps since 1992. And that was when I was 5 years old when I started. I used to have a collection of AC Transit bus maps and schedules and stuff like that. And I always got something really changed. I always followed it. Keep in mind, I was only 5 years old when I started doing this. But I've always noticed the difference. And I noticed the difference when I got the most recent AC Transit bus map that there were fewer Transbay bus routes.
Yeah.
There were fewer buses going through places, and there was just too many. There was just too many empty spaces where buses once went to.
Yeah.
So my last question, and I promise this is the last one, is there has there been a way to where you can advertise public transportation, say like ride sharing or AC Transit BART or the scooters and bike racks that you guys have used?
Yeah, the primary way that that's communicated at the city level through their city newsletter, which I've expressed is, that's not enough. Not everyone is checking their emails from the city. Not everyone is self-selecting to subscribe to newsletters from the city that they live in. And that's not how you reach people. Like it does require, putting out actual marketing material out in the streets. It requires, having actual human interactions with folks and letting them know, like, hey, these are options that are available. When we can get to that point, then I could say I feel more confident with the way in which we're, reaching out to people and letting them be aware of what options are available are to encourage them. But right now, it's not where it needs to be in terms of reaching out to people. I've expressed that we got a lot of work to do there.
Of course. Okay, so let me start by saying before we head out, T, you want to throw out any shout outs?
Shout out to my little family for keeping me grounded. Shout out to everyone who went to De Anza with us, because that thing looked like a prison, but now it's looking like a little community college.
I've seen that. It looks so beautiful. I wonder if is the hill still there? I don't know if the hill's still there or not.
The hill's still there.
Okay, good, because I know they got a turf field now, and I even seen a water fountain.
That works.
That works.
And then also, just shout out to my nephews who are playing football at De Anza right now. One of them, he's getting ready next month to head up to Oregon to play football. He got a scholarship for
awesome
for a nice college up there. One of the best liberal arts colleges in the country, and so things that I'm able to be proud of for the next generation. Shout out to all my nephews and nieces doing good things. That one's going off to Lewis and Clark College. One of my nieces, she's going off to the Academy of Art. And, it's just really beautiful to see that, because those weren't things that were really on our minds when we were seniors in high school, to like that it's going to happen. For us, it's like, how are we going to make this happen? For them, it's like, it's going to happen. See you guys there.
Right.
And then, just major shout out to whoever's viewing or will view or who will check this out. Appreciate you all showing Ronald some love, as creepy as his profile photo look.
Get off my photo, bro.
As soon as I seen that, I went, oh, crap buckets.
It's crap baskets.
Crap baskets. Yeah, I can't even get
baskets.
Crap basket.
I'm gonna send you the link. I'm gonna send you the link to the Abridged series, and I'm gonna need you to check that out. That's your homework, all right? That's your homework.
You know what? I'm gonna find a way to use that phrase, "oh crap baskets," during my next city council meeting.
Look, I'm gonna send you a link to one of the episodes to Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I need you to watch that, and I'm gonna need you to get back with me about that. We're gonna have a good conversation about that. All right. Also, we're gonna have a part 2 to this, because there is so much more that we're gonna have to talk about. I know you said we had a limited time, so we're gonna try to do this again. Hopefully, we'll have time again in the near future. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to everybody watching. A shout out to my moderators, Black Angel TV and Rail. Shout out to Mom
for not slapping him like he should have been.
You're gonna get me in trouble, man. And just giving love to everybody else. Shout out to the city of Albany. West Contra Costa County School District, and all those people who had a hand in raising us and getting us out into this community properly and all that good stuff. And a huge shout out to Councilman Robin Lopez, aka the Hood Ecologist. Thank you for showing up and showing out for your boy. And I want everybody to enjoy the rest of their weekend. And like I always say, likes, like kindness is always free. And I'm cheap as fuck. Everybody, have a good day.
All right. Take care. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
Thanks, brother. Take it easy.